So not hearing any citizens' comments, Julie, can you take us through the increases in the water and sewer rates?
Absolutely. So I will talk loud, Susan. So as you've been doing for about a year now, we are gradually increasing rates. If you recall, there were a number of years where we had not been increasing rates when even during that time of inflation. So we're playing a bit of catch up. So this time around, you are increasing, excuse me, like a hiccups, you're increasing the water base rate by $3. You're increasing water consumption by 25 cents. The sewer base rate by $2, and sewer consumption, there is no increase scheduled for this time.
Have we reached the goal that we were trying to achieve with
No,
this, or
your
are there
goal
still
would-
some more?
There is, there's three more. The February of 2025 is when we said we would reevaluate, and at that point, we feel we will be where we should be. Yeah.
Any questions or discussion, any concerns on this?
Just a comment.
Sure.
For, not everyone may be aware that these are quarterly fees, not monthly. Didn't want anybody to get too excited about that.
Yep. Anything else? I would entertain a motion to increase the water and sewer rates as stated.
So moved.
Second.
Lee's the motion and Tim's the second. Any other comments or discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of increasing the water and sewer rates by the amount stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All set with that. Next item is the purchase of water meters. At our last meeting, we had a gentleman from Beacon AMA Solutions, I believe, regarding the town water meters. We're looking to replace the heads on them because the old system is going to become obsolete within 7 or 8 months. And I guess, Jeff, you said there was no way to get parts for them and things. It just wasn't practical to try to maintain a system that is not going to be working in the near future. And if there was a catastrophic failure, it would set us back time-wise and would be in the same boat. So we're kind of trying to do this, being proactive to take care of something that needs to be addressed. The amount, I believe, was the total price was $106,500 plus a $600 per month cellular fee, which figured out to be about $1 per user. Any thoughts, discussions? Anybody have any more questions? Jeff, would you like to add to it? Just give us your name and your title.
Yes, Jeff Holden, Water Superintendent. The salesman that was here, he wasn't sure about the possibilities of increasing the cellular, but I talked to, and I actually got a text confirming from the CEO of Stiles. He says the cell cost would maintain for at least 3 years, and then if it goes up, it'll be like 0.01. It's going to be 1 cent, basically. If there is an increase. But we're at the point where, well, if we go to this system, we can do away with the handheld, which is obsolete. We can't even get them anymore. And if we got a different style, it'd be $15,000 just for the handheld. But if we get it all onto the cellular thing, Amy can do everything from her desk, because they're all come in over the air and cellular service lines. We've stretched it out as long as we could, really, and it's time that we're going to have to do something.
That cellular fee that you're talking about, is that locked into one carrier, or is that just part of the package and part of the heads that
Whatever
we're
carrier
buying?
we have on the tower up here.
Okay.
That the town.
I know we don't deal with chats during a select board meeting. Kathy,
Okay.
I don't deal with chats during a select board meeting. No,
What was that?
no. Go ahead, Joe.
So, it's that one carrier that the town deals with.
Yep.
And I don't know, you probably had it in your package last time, if you remember that they did a test on all of the units, where the units are, and there was cell coverage on every single one of them. And there was, I think he said the weakest one was like 2 bars or something.
Well, being in the village, the coverage is pretty good when it comes to cell services. When you start getting out in the hills and further away from the village, that there's chances of it not working. But I can understand why it would make sense in the village for sure. It works pretty well, cell service.
So is that $600 a month, we paying the beacon or we're paying to the cell service provider?
I think it goes to the cell service provider.
Okay, so that's not part of there. So in addition to the 106,000 and change, there's $600 that we pay to the cell service provider in order to get the data.
Right.
Okay.
And I was under the impression, I think we were going to pass that cost to the consumer. Increase everybody's bill by $1 a month or whatever, $12 a year to cover that, so the town didn't have to take that on. For their convenience and for the towns, because there was also some other options and other things that could be done with that service as far as checking water and being notified of continuing running water or issues with the system and that kind of thing. So it wasn't that, a straight, just make them charge $1. There's some more extra to it besides helping the town too.
So I remember when the gentleman was here at our last meeting, the $96,000 kicked around, and that was just for the equipment, correct, and not for the
Right.
software upgrade. So all these other costs that are shown in the sheet are the software upgrade and reading equipment, et cetera.
Yes.
Okay. And the savings to the town based on not having somebody have to go out and read these meters, what's the offset there?
Well, it's usually if everything goes right and batteries don't die or whatnot, I can do them now because I've been doing them so long, about 4 hours.
Okay.
Every 3 months. That's just for me. And also, we may get a heads up when there's more problems because they'll come right into her computer and she can give me a list weekly, whatever needs to be attended to. And so we will have any notices for water leaks or whatever, so.
So when you go out once a quarter to read meters, it takes you about 4 hours, but then somebody has to enter the data, or is it all
Right.
electronic?
Yeah, I give it to Amy. I have to have the handheld, give it to Amy.
Right.
She downloads it all, and then she does all the bills and stuff.
Okay, okay, so that whole process will be eliminated because it'll already show up on her computer?
Well, yeah, she would just have to do it on her computer for as the bills.
Right,
so.
right, okay, thank you.
And the other advantage is for the bigger businesses like Drew's or whatever.
Yeah, the commercial units would be able to be billed monthly, which would
Right.
certainly help our cash flow and theirs.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions or concerns or any more discussion on this? I would entertain a motion at this point that the Water Department purchases new meters to the tune of $106,500, plus there will be a $600 per month cellular fee that is going to be given to the users, $1 per user fee.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Tim's the motion and Lee's the second. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All set. All set with the new meters.
Thank you.
It should make life a little easier for you, Jeff, and for the office also.
We just change them all out now.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Lee's the motion. Tim's the second. All those in favor of adjourning our Water Commissioners meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We'll move right into our Select Board meeting, and the first thing on the agenda is additions or deletions to the agenda. Any changes, any concerns with the agenda?
I have none.
Everybody okay with it? Then we'll go on to our minutes of July 3rd, 2024. Any corrections, changes, omissions, errors, anything? Anybody have anything on our July 3rd, 2024 minutes?
I have none.
I've done.
I have none.
All those in favor of the minutes as written,
Wait,
please
we
say
need a
aye.
motion. I'll move to approve the meeting minutes.
Thanks, Lee.
I'll second.
I'm getting ahead of myself because Julie says she has to
I'm
be out
sorry, I
here
knew
at
that was
8:15.
coming. I knew that was
We
coming.
got pressure.
Pressure's on. I did state she could leave at 8:15.
I knew I was going to get blamed.
Leaves the motion. Who was the second? Tim?
I seconded.
Any further discussion on it? All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, please say aye.
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 Citizens' comments. If there was someone here that would like to address the board regarding an issue that is not on the agenda, now would be the time for citizens' comments. Hearing none, we'll go on to old business. Julie, can you take us through our old business list?
I can, just a couple of quick things. The wayfinding signs, people have probably seen a lot of the bases, or all the bases at this point, have been installed. Within the next few weeks, the posts and the sign should be going up. They're waiting on a couple more things to come in, and then they'll be in town installing everything at once. So that should be completed soon. It's coming. Housing Commission, Joel Feinberg was a Housing Commission member you had appointed. He is stepping down from the Housing Commission. He is not able to be in town a lot, and there's a lot of hands-on work that we do with maps around a table, and it's just really hard for him to participate. So he is wanting to step down. He'll kind of be a consultant for us if we ever need his input. He's happy to be involved that way. So we will be advertising for a new member for the Housing Commission, and so be expecting an appointment coming hopefully in September.
That's too bad.
He was a good asset, I know. So I do plan to still use him because he does have a wealth of knowledge.
yes.
So Solarfield, Jim and I, we were scheduled to meet on Friday. Jim has been pretty sick, so him and I will be talking over the phone. On Friday, we have the suite of documents. We are now finally all able to actually get into the suite of documents that they have sent us with passwords and all this other stuff. So we will be reviewing that now that we have access to the documentation. We'll be reviewing it all. And again, really hoping that something will be coming to you for our next meeting for an executive session discussion about negotiations for that purchase. And then last but not least, Bailey Road. Jim and I have a meeting with Peter on not Friday. We're going to schedule it for early next week. And Peter has done an extensive amount of research and mapped out some things. So we're going to go over all that with Jim, figure out how he would like to proceed, and then we'll have a report back to the board with all of that information and Jim's recommendation. Will be coming very soon as well. And very last but not least, we had an amazing National Night Out. For anybody that made it last night, we had the biggest attendance that we have ever had. We filled up all the parking lots, all the way down Lover's Lane and the clinic's parking lot across the street. We had hundreds of people there, and it was amazing. And everybody enjoyed it, loved it. So just big shout out to the Public Safety Department and Alicia, who coordinated all of that effort. So it was a huge event, lots of good compliments. People really had a great time. So just thank you to that department.
Did that helicopter land, or did they
It
just
did.
do a flyby?
No, Dart landed in the baseball field. And then in small groups, the kids were allowed to go into the helicopter, actually get inside Dart and hang out in there. And yeah,
Wow,
it was fun.
that's great.
Yep. That's it for me.
That's really turning into quite the community event.
It is, it is. It's growing every year. This year, we put it back at the Pinnacle so that we would be able to have, you can have the pool, and there's just more space, and they had more games, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yep.
I just wanted to mention something about the Bailey's Road, that we've been addressing and stuff, and that's the amount of hours that Peter has been putting
Yes.
into this. And saving the town some serious money as far as the research goes and the work that's gone into this. Pretty much spends quite a bit of time in that vault downstairs doing the research and all the information that's been gathered. I can't imagine what it would have cost the town to hire somebody to do all that, but it's very thorough and it's very precise, and it's really going to help us when we come to the negotiations. Well, not even the negotiations, when we come to the discussion regarding that the road. Anybody else have anything on old business? Moving on, we have an opening in our local cannabis control board. Who was in there, Julie, that resigned?
Risa Alexander, this is Risa's position. Yeah,
I just want to thank her for the time that she did spend there.
yeah.
And we have someone here, Mr. Barry Fowler, that is interested in serving on the local cannabis control commission, which would be a big help because that would round out the board and help along with the meetings and stuff. And Mr. Fowler, are you here? Would you like to come to the microphone and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in this?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Barry Fowler. I live on Route 10 in Chester. I used to be over on Cobley Street. I've been there probably 8 or 9 years. At one point in time, I was elected the thankless job of lister. Unfortunately, due to work changes and commitments, I had to kind of turn that back after about a 6-month stay into that 3-year term. Ever since then, though, I've wanted to get back involved with the town, and when I saw the opportunity for the Cannabis Commission, I thought that would be a great way to get restarted and reacquainted with the town and town government. And my history as far as cannabis is concerned, I think we all maybe grew up in the 70s, or a lot of us did. Might have been a situation there where I stood next to Bill Clinton and never inhaled. But other than that, I look forward to the opportunity to serve the town and serve with the Cannabis Commission if selected.
Great.
Questions for me?
Anybody? Any questions?
No, I'm good.
Just want to thank you for volunteering and thank you for stepping forward. And
Thank
you're
you.
in. Julie, what is that, a 3-year term?
It would be a 3-year appointment from now, yes. Yeah.
Is it a full 3-year term or the remainder of a 3-year term?
It actually happens to correlate, to be perfect. So it would be, at this point, a 3-year term, and actually it would expire in March with the appointment. So it would expire March of 27. 4 and 3 is 7, right? Yeah, March of 27. It's been a long week.
All right, the next item on our agenda is
Are you
Julie.
going to do a motion to appoint him?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want me
Who's
to-
making this one?
I'll move to appoint Jerry Fowler to the open position on the Cannabis Control Board.
Tim's the motion. Who's the second?
I'll second.
Peter's the second. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor of appointing Barry Fowler to the Cannabis Control Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's official now, Mr. Fowler, you're in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Julie and Corey violations. Julie, can you take us through this?
I certainly can. Probably we'll have Preston come up to the mic and do a little more talking. Actually, Preston, I think I'm just going to let you explain your enforcement issue. I just don't want to mess it up. So, yeah, there's a few issues that Preston can enforce, a few things we can't. The request for you tonight is, and he'll give you details, the request tonight is permission, because at this point it goes to the environmental court, which of course costs attorney's fees and has an expense associated with it. So at this point, we will need your approval to do that, but Preston can explain, I think, in better detail.
Yeah, so to put it in context, there was a notice of violation which I drafted in February, and it was appealed to environmental court, and then there was a stipulation that was generated and signed by all parties to basically, Julian admitted that they would not contest the appeal, and they would stop certain activities. And of course, the most valuable one of those is the hammering, which has stopped. There are certain other activities that are occurring. There's a pump that continues to drain the Chandler Quarry, and it runs day and night. There's a certain amount of truck traffic between the two quarries, but much less than it was. From everything we can see, the North Quarry doesn't have any activity, but there is still some moving of trucks and some palleting of materials, which they do have a permit for the South Quarry. Some of that is allowed. So, but in any case, the one thing that we're asking at this point, or I am asking at this point for enforcement on, is 2 structure violations regarding the former BV lot, which includes a house that is partly in floodplain and a shed that is built out of container boxes that doesn't meet setbacks. And they have not complied with the requirements to go before the DRB to get those, either the setbacks or the floodplain issues dealt with. So it's time to enforce it. And I'll just simply say that, like every step along the way, we consult with our town attorney, Jim Carroll, and structure violations are much clearer to enforce than use violations. So the structure violations are something that I think we need to go forward with and deal with. Jim's legal phrase is that the use violations we're going to take under advisement, which is a way of saying we're not sure that it's a case we can win yet, and we kind of hate to spend the taxpayers' dollars on a case that we're not sure we can win yet, but that we would, but being under advisement, that may be added to the case as we go forward.
And we'll come back at that point. As evidence is getting gathered, we will come back if there is.
So at this
Further
point, you're
violation.
looking for permission from the Select Board regarding the structure violation for a house and for the shed, because they
Yes.
haven't been moved or removed.
Well, again, just to kind of put it in context, I can write the notice of violation, but only you as the Select Board can authorize the spending of money. So I can't tell Jim Carroll, go after them, you have to. That being said, yes, I believe the request will be certainly that they be removed. Whether Jim will allow them at this late date to try to comply with setback and floodplain, I don't know. But I would certainly feel, given the track record, given the very clear precedents, that I think it's just simply remove them. You haven't done the things that you know you need to do.
Yeah, I would think, and I guess this would be a board decision also, that at this point, we're past the point of trying to negotiate with them.
Right.
I mean, we have to enforce whatever we can enforce as strong as
Right.
and rigid as we can, because trying to negotiate with these folks is just, it's not
And the
worth our
stipulation
time.
was the negotiation.
Correct. That's right.
And
You're
so then
violating
if
a
there's things that
stipulation
they
that's
haven't
already
followed
been.
in the
Yeah.
stipulation which they signed, then it's kind of beyond negotiation. I would agree.
So we would need a motion.
A motion would be great. If you could give us authority to retain Jim to proceed to environmental court, that would be fabulous.
So basically, it would be a motion to approve this request for enforcement from Preston that we have in our.
Sure, then that gives us
and
all the
whatever's
detail.
attached
Yep.
to it
Yep,
at this
that's
point.
fine.
Any idea of cost?
No. No. You're going to be several hours. It just depends. I mean, there's no way to anticipate what that will be. It depends on how far Julians want to challenge it.
I mean, that's true with almost any court cases that we get
Yeah.
involved with, but at this point, it would be nice to know the cost, but
Jim is not going to put a number on it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's no way that you can. I mean, are you going to spend less than $2,000? No, probably not. It will exceed that, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether we're talking tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And
You're
we-
not talking hundreds of thousands.
So, but we don't know for sure. And there's no way to tell really till we
That
get
would
into
have
it.
to get appealed all the way to the Supreme Court before
Right.
you hit that
Right.
threshold, but.
And then, are there any downsides to this?
Not that I can think of. I mean, there was a stipulation that was agreed on. They agreed to the removal of these structures, or to the dealing of with getting permits for these structures. They didn't. And I think at this point, if you do not, I think you're sending a bigger statement if you do not take the action that you need to say, no, there is a stipulated agreement, you're failing on your end, we are pushing it. That's critical, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, what you just said. I mean, I'm not saying we
No.
don't do it. The other question I have is relative to, can we get financial relief from them for making us do this?
I am sure, having worked with Jim for a number of years, that typically he will try to claim back legal fees if that isn't allowed in the complaint and in the charge, yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Can we stipulate that he would do that if there's a legal avenue?
If there's a legal avenue, Jim will do it anyway. He always does. Yeah, yeah. I just don't know if in an environmental court case, I'm not positive. But if there is a way, then yes, we will. We absolutely will.
So I'll make the motion that we allow this to proceed.
Approve the memorandum
Yeah.
from Preston
The
dated
request
July
to
30th,
authorize, yes.
2024, and the request for enforcement. Is there a second?
A second?
Lee's the motion, Tim's the second. Any further discussion on this part of the topic? All those in favor of approving the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. And I know there's some folks here regarding this issue, and if you would like to offer some comment or, why you're here, you're more than welcome to at this time.
No, Ernie.
Come on up to the mic and,
Because we got here late, but, and I'm sorry about that, I thought we were going to be early, actually. Mike Leclerc, live in Gassets. I just heard Preston talking about just one thing out of several that you plan to enforce. We have spent thousands of dollars in order to get these 6 stipulations enforced. And these aren't my laws or our rules. This is the town and the state rules that we've spent our time and effort documenting, hiring attorneys to put forth. One of them, of course, is the removal of undocumented buildings on property in flood zones. And I can't imagine for the life of me why we haven't had enforcement even before now. The reputation of the people we're dealing with speaks for itself, and I'm sure we should all be familiar with that at this point. If we're not, I'm sadly misinformed. But where does it end? One of the stipulations here is you're not going to truck material from one quarry to the other quarry. And if they do, what happens? So far, nothing. We've got videos, we've got documentation, we've spent money enforcing, and still no enforcement by the town, or actually by the state either, by this point. We've been dealing with this for 4 or 5 years, and I would venture to say there's nobody on this board or the DBR board that would have ever put up with this for the length of time that we have from Gassets. If this was taking place in Chester, like it was a few years ago with Mike O'Neill's operation, this is so much farther beyond what Mike O'Neill ever did to this town. Mike O'Neill was a blessing. These people have been a curse for the last 4 or 5 years, making a mockery out of your rules and regulations the state's rules and regulations constantly, and they still are. They're still trucking sludge from one quarry to the other. Where is that sludge going now? They say it's not going in the river. Well, I have no idea where it's going now because it goes over to the other quarry stashed somewhere. And for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, it's been going into Dean Brook. We haven't gained anything yet without solid enforcement. That's the only thing that these people will understand. And hopefully, the people that are in charge of our town will understand what we've been going through for the last 4 or 5 years. It hasn't been pretty, and it still isn't. One of the rules here says you're not supposed to run the quarry after 5 o'clock. Well, 2 or 3 days this week, I'm sitting on my back deck, and 5:30, almost 6 o'clock, boom, boom, bang, bang, and it's been going on all day long. We haven't made much headway at this point, enforcement-wise. They're still making a mockery out of you and us. And I think it's time to enforce all of these. We can't afford to give them 1 inch because they take a mile. They always have, and I see no reason why they won't. And I've dealt with these people really for too long, as it is right now, believe me. It's not pleasant. It hasn't been pleasant for 4 or 5 years, and we need to do something about it. The state of Vermont and the town of Chester needs to enforce your laws, your rules and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else that wants to speak to this issue? There's one thing that I just would like to mention. And these aren't excuses. This isn't a reason for things maybe not happening as fast as you think they should be. But it's extremely tough when you have someone that doesn't care about the laws and disregards all the laws and does whatever the hell they want to do. And we have to follow the laws, and we have to follow procedures, and we have to go through the court, and we have to deal with attorneys and talk to lawyers and see which cases work and which cases don't. I wish there was some magic bullet that we could do and just make everything disappear and be right, but it's extremely difficult in our position sometimes to do what people want to have happen. I just wanted to say that just so. Like I said, it's not an excuse, it's not an answer, and I'm sure it's not going to help matters, but it's a little tougher to deal with folks that have a total disregard for the law, and you have to make sure that you do everything exactly by the law on our end, otherwise it just compounds and makes things worse. Is there anybody else that wants to address this issue or make any comments? Next item on our agenda is errors and omissions. And basically, these are a group of changes to our grand list and the appraisals of them. Julie, is that what these are?
Yep, each one is different. There's different reasons. After the grand list is set, anytime the listers make an adjustment, for anything that of value, like in one, it has to do with the garage. I mean, it requires an error and omission. Kathy can certainly answer more questions further if you would like specifics on any of them, but this is simply the process after the grand list has been set if there are substantial changes to valuation.
So we could do it all as a group?
You can
For
do them
these?
all as a group, yes.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns or comments regarding this group of errors and omissions?
Just on the seventh one in our packet is Griffin, 73 Breezy Land or Lane?
Lane?
Lane,
Yeah.
okay, it says land.
Yeah.
The value didn't change there. So based upon what you just said, Julie, I'm not sure, I see there's something about the house site values, but the property value is not changed. I don't really understand that.
Kathy, do you want to explain a little further?
So it turned out that several years ago, when a different person owned the property, they had rented part of it, and there was illness, they stopped renting, and one of the indicators that said their renting was removed, but the other one wasn't. And when we got a call from them saying, so why is my tax bill so high? We've gotten a lot of those this year. I was looking, and this, as you noted, doesn't affect the value a lot, but it was important to remove the other indicator and have it say that, no, she doesn't rent it. It's all homestead and house site. It's not, you know, part rented and part not rented.
Okay, so the part that changed doesn't show up here, but the
Right.
fact that it changed, it needs the error
Yeah,
and
so
omission
the two,
approved.
non-homestead parcels get a tax rate of 1.783, I think, and homestead gets 1.6001.
Now I got it. Thank you.
So the
That explained it.
valuation is the same, but the tax bill is
Tax
changing.
rate is different.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. And thank you guys for, I'm sorry there were so many, but it seemed important to do all of them now and not later.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Kathy, because I know how you are, and thank you for fixing them. I think everybody in the town appreciates, you know, that you're actually going in there and thoroughly looking at it.
How would you like these approved? One at a?
You can do
mention?
them as a group to approve the 7 errors and omissions. You can do that, that's fine.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve this group of errors and omissions presented to us on our August 7th meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Leaves the motion and Tim's the second. Any further discussion on those? All those in favor of approving the errors and omissions presented today, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
So I'll start the originals down here.
Is there signatures on each one?
Yes.
This might take a bit.
You want me to stack, or you want them one at a time? Where's Ariana when we need her? She likes doing this.
Do we need Wi-Fi for that thing to work?
It's on Zoom or on, they live stream to YouTube. On YouTube, it's fine. There's camera, everybody can be heard great. That's what Amy was texting me. It's completely in here. So
Because there's no Wi-Fi up here, that's why.
it
I was asking.
shouldn't be. Everything should be working fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not getting
You're not getting them?
anything. Not that I care, then I can pay more attention.
The next item is our quarterly financial reports. So Julie, what are we looking like after a half a year?
We are looking like we're right where we should be, which is always positive. However, we're at halfway through the year. So your third quarter is obviously what's going to show your tax revenue, and that's where we start getting into having a much better picture of the second half of the year. But as of right now, we're holding at right about 50% for revenue and expense. So we are really where we should be. When you get to the water sewer reports, they do look a little wonky. That has to do with, remember, they are enterprise funds. So their grants do not run through the general fund grant fund. So they're looking wonky because they have grant expense that hasn't been reimbursed yet, which is why their numbers are looking a little off. And they tend to be off revenue-wise from expense, again, because like you did at the very first part of your meeting, we are gradually increasing fees to make up for inflationary costs when fees were not increased over the past several years. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Has our TAN notes been keeping up with payments, or, because I know we were getting close on cash flow?
So we are close on cash flow. Our TAN note is not due reimbursement. Payment of the TAN note is not due until December, so it's a one-time payment. We are tight on cash flow because FEMA reimbursement is not what was anticipated would happen. We are fine. Tax revenue is coming in. So we are holding fine right now. As I had said to you guys, I think at a previous meeting, FEMA has come out with a new rule that if a town had to borrow a current expense note to cover its cash flow during the flooding event, that any interest would be an allowed expense to FEMA. So at a 5% interest rate on a current expense note, that will be a wonderful submission, so we will plan to do that. It would not surprise me, but what come December, we extend that current expense note. Our total flood costs are about 2.5 million. We, at this point, have been reimbursed about 400,000. It is a arduous process this year. When they did, during Irene, we were fully reimbursed in about 6 to 8 months. We're more than a year out. Chester's not alone. It's statewide. They have added all kinds of layers of review for each and every project. So the latest I heard today from my FEMA guy was federal, of course, is coming to the end of their fiscal year. And so FEMA is on the state of Vermont and all their project managers to get these projects obligated. All of our projects have been submitted. We're waiting for them to go through the obligation process. And they're pushing for these projects to get obligated because FEMA wants to pay out in their current fiscal year. So we'll see if we get a large flux of money in the next 2 months, I'm hoping. But it would not surprise me but what we go into another budget year. But again, flood expenses are not showing in the general fund. We have put them into a reserve fund, so it won't impact taxes.
So you said out of that 2.5 million worth of expenses because of the floods, we've only gotten reimbursed 600,000,
400,000.
400,000.
Yep. Yep.
That is,
All the projects are submitted, and it's not a question of if it will get reimbursed. It will get reimbursed. It's just that their timing is less than desirable and messes with our cash flow. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd like to thank Public Safety because last year the ambulance was kind of all over the place and now it's all straightened out and running rather nicely and smoothly. I'm
Yep.
thankful for that.
Yep. Yep. Got that budget on
numbers
too.
actually look good in that.
Yeah.
It's doing what we were hoping that it was going to do, is start to generate a little more revenue than normal and provide a better service.
Correct.
So you're getting two things that are helping the town.
Correct. And the new ambulance should be here mid-September. So again, we're hoping to start up that transfer service, which will really start generating revenue for public safety. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments or concerns on the budget report? That's okay, then we'll head on. We have a request for a catering permit request to cater permit. And there's, Wilmington Inn is a caterer, and they're from Wilmington, Vermont, and they're going to be catering an event, I believe it's on Main Street.
Yes,
It's a one-day thing.
it's a one-day event, and if they're catering in your jurisdiction, in your town, Select Board has to just approve.
All right. We need a motion on this, or is this just filed?
No, motion to approve.
I would entertain a motion to approve a DLL application 46814, a request to cater permit for W.I. Foster for an event happening at 639 Main Street, Chester, Vermont.
So moved.
Second.
Tim's the motion and Lee's the second, and the event is September 21st, 2024. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor of approving the permit, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? New business, future agenda items. We'll have the Class 4 road, Bailey Hills, coming up for sure.
I'm hoping I will have the solar field on. In September, you will have, I would imagine, the Planning Commission will be giving us their changes for our public hearing.
What about the Housing Commission that,
Housing Commission, because of the day that we were supposed to meet and do our stuff, it was really wet and rainy. So probably September. Yeah, I will confirm with them at their August meeting what's the plan.
I don't know if this is for the Select Board, but getting questions about the status of the canopy plan since it's now, we're into August and autumn's right around the corner.
The urban forestry grant?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those who may not know, the town received a grant, about $47,000, for some canopy work, in the village. That included taking down a bunch of dead trees along Main Street, a bunch of the dead ash trees, along the Brookside Trail, and various locations throughout town. Those trees have been removed. It also includes, the planting of several new trees. The town back in 2018 had Scott Wonderly from Terrigenous did a canopy management plan that was done through a grant. So this is implementation of that. So it starts the replanting some of the trees along the town's roads within the village. Couple areas that were determined to need a little love. So that planting should be taking place either mid-fall or early spring. We did go out to bid. We received a bid from Skyline Nursery. So they're just looking at inventory to see if they'll be able to do a fall planting or a spring planting, depending on the types of trees that we have selected for certain areas. So that's where that project is at.
Does it make sense for that group maybe to set a time to get together, or is it all dependent upon
I'm
the
waiting.
availability of the plants?
I'm waiting to hear back from
Okay.
Skyline. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have anything they would like to see on future agendas?
It's not an agenda item, Arnie, but one thing that I was asked, and I don't need a vote from you, I just need to know that nobody is going to have an issue. There is being proposed to be a debate held September, I believe it's the 8th, on the Green for the House of Representatives position. And the request was if we would be willing to close Common Street for an hour while that is taking place. They were wanting to do it on the Green, but to not have traffic going up and down that street. The proposition would be that they would do it after all the businesses are closed so that they're not interfering with business hours for anybody. Again, 1 hour, I just, before I say, yeah, go ahead, I just want to make sure that there's not a concern from the select board with doing that. The police department has no issues. Again, 1 hour in Common Street would be and it's a Sunday afternoon, I believe, Sunday evening.
The business owners don't have a problem with it?
I am going to double check, or I'm going to make sure that the party that wants to do this double checks. They have said to me it would be after business hours, but I do think it's important that we let them know.
Who's the organization that wants to sponsor?
I was contacted by the Republican Party,
Okay.
is who I was contacted by.
Is this for the U.S. House of Representatives?
No,
or
this
state?
is for state.
Thank you.
So we have Heather Chase and Tom Charlton running. It would be a debate between those two parties.
Okay.
Is my
Any
understanding.
concerns for the board? Everybody okay?
As long as the business owners are okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
those
I
are-
will make sure that they confirm with all business owners that they are okay and that have no pushback. Okay, I will let them know.
All right. Anything else? Hearing none, nothing else, we'll move on.
I have nothing for the second meeting in August. Do you want to skip your second meeting in August? I know in previous years, we have, in the summer months, we have not had second meetings in the summer months. It's up to you guys.
I'm out of town for the second meeting, even if you had it, so it's up to you guys if you want.
I have nothing at this point pressing for that.
I can be out of town.
Well, why don't we say no unless something pressing comes up, and then we could just reschedule if we have
Okay,
to.
I will hold the spot. If something comes up where we need a meeting,
Yep.
then yes, I will put that on.
And otherwise, you can just cancel it, and that would need to be announced somehow, right?
Correct, correct.
All right.
Did you have a question? Did you say my name, Mike?
No,
Okay,
no, I'm all set.
okay.
Next item is an executive session to discuss personnel.
So I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for discussions about personnel.
Second?
Lee's the motion and Tim's the second. All those in favor of entering executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel, please say aye.
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 And there will not be any action, I believe, after we come out of this regarding the